Okay, I'm going to talk about basically, this is what I'm going to talk about the population papers again. It is an important thing because Madam Ho Ching, someone showed me Madam Ho Ching's Facebook thing again, talking about this 8 million to 10 million population. And again, Madam Ho Ching shared an old article, right? An old article, which was actually written by Mothership, which explain where does the 10 million population things come from. Okay, it is from Liu Taiger, right? They will be having a discussion after the 6.9 million white paper came out in 2013. So in a forum, Liu Taiger actually says, actually we can go up to 10 million people, and we should aim for 10 million people. And the concept is this: he says that because we have an aging population and our population are not giving birth enough babies, producing enough babies, right, to to sustain ourselves as a nation. Our uh, existence of a nation could be very much in doubt if the aging population situation continues that direction. Now, a lot of people went to Hong Lim Park to protest after the white paper came out with a 6.9 million. Actually, back then it was 6.5 to 6.9, aimed for 2030. And now we reached 6 million. So we have 6 years towards 2030. Whether we can increase 900,000 people within 6 years actually is quite difficult. But reaching 6.5 million people is definitely possible. Why? Because we have increased 2 million people for the past 20 years. 2 million people within 20 years. So every year is about 100,000. All right. So we have 6 more years. That means 6.5 is easily attainable. Right? But 6.9, maybe yes, maybe no. We do not know. Right? And you know what? Back then, in 2015 election, they were having a debate, election debate, right, in Channel News Asia. So Dr. Chishun Chuan have raised about this 10 million people population, and Vivian Balakrishnan was defending it, say it's never a target, so called. Okay? They have never planned for it, so called. I was puzzled back then, right? I was very puzzled, right? Because if you don't plan for it, why do you come up with a white paper 6.9 million in the first place? Right? You must have some plan for 6.9. Because Vivian Krishnan was saying that we may not even reach 6.9 million. So if you do not plan for 10 million, then tell us what do you plan for, right? But it seems that the impression given was they have no figures in mind. And that, I think, is inaccurate. Why? I have shown, right? I have shown that the PUB, when the PUB want to increase this water bill, the bond, the so-called water bond fees, the justification given was by 2065, water consumption will increase by double from now. So I took the population figures right now. If you double, normally a simple calculation, because water consumption is quite straightforward. A person will not use more or less water. Right? Water consumption per capita is uh, quite straightforward, right? Statistically speaking, the variation is not going to be too big. Why would the water consumption increase when your population don't increase? Very simple question. So there was two types of water consumption. One type is actually called um, industrial and commercial usage, right? The other one is residential usage. So the increase in these both is not the same, the rate of increase. So commercial and industrial increment of water consumption was projected to increase faster than residential. Fine, right? But yet I did a calculation, right? Because I want to know why would they claim by 2065 our water consumption will increase by 100%, double, right? If they have that kind of figures, there must be something. It cannot be baseless. You cannot pluck from the air and say, oh, we will increase by how much. Cannot be, right. As a responsible government and responsible civil servants, you must justify why you say that. Because ultimately, we are going to pay more tax for your plan. So you better justify it, right? You cannot suka pluck from the air and say, oh, we will increase this. That's why we need more money to build infrastructure for the water supply and all that. Right? So I did a calculation. It came out 10 million. The figures was 10 million people. They were planning. The planning parameters was 10 million population by 2065. Now, Liu Taike, just now I was saying, Liu Taike, right, in his forum, in the forum, he was talking about 10 million people by 2100, 2100, right? By the end of this century, so-called. And I was shocked when I used the PUB data, right? Because it's all everywhere. PUB have a annual report also, right? So we did a calculation, right? Wow, I was shocked. What, 2065, they're aiming for 10 million people? So why did Vivian Balakrishnan claims that they do not have any population parameters for planning? Ironically, Ho Ching's, Madam Ho Ching's post this today, early morning I received. She was saying, oh, he actually cited the Mothership article, which talked about Liu Taike, talking about 10 million people. Where Ho Ching was actually saying, we must plan for the future. So Vivian Balakrishnan in 2015 election says, we do not have a planning target for population. And now we have Madam Ho Ching who says, oh, we must plan in advance for a 10 million population. So who is telling the truth? Or they change their mind? Or do they just last time don't have planning parameters, now suddenly have planning parameters for 10 million? Okay, this is a mystery. Now, I do not believe in a 10 million population. Why? First of all, I've said this in 2015 when the population debate came about, the 10 million people, 10 million population debate was firstly initiated by Dr. Chi Shun Chuan, right? I said unchecked population growth is the mother of all problems. And I still maintain this position, right? Unchecked population growth will be the mother of all problems, including insufficient infrastructure, right? High inflation, high COE costs, high housing costs, high water costs now, because we are taxed more by water bond fees. They justify, well, we build for the future, we need to get more tax now. Now, I want to ask you, why should we, this generation, pay for the fees to build an infrastructure for the future 10 million population? Is that fair to us? nobody asked this question. If I'm in parliament, I will ask this question. Are you saying that we are supposed to pay for the infrastructure which is planned for the future generation, which we are not going to use it? We are already taxed so-called so heavily, right? And now we pay land costs for HDB, which the PAP government acquire the land at cheap dirt price, and they say that they cannot sell HDB cheap without the land cost because that will be raiding the reserve, and we must save for the future. Every time they want to increase prices, it's always for the future, right? It's never about us. There's a intergeneration in unfairness to begin with. And rightfully so, a lot of people will start to calculate how much reserve we have, total reserve over 1 trillion, whether it's 1.3 trillion or 1.5 trillion, it doesn't matter. The key is they ask, if we have so much reserve, why should we increase GST? Again, it's for the future. You know, I attended a course. The lecturer actually said something like this. In life, you do not only aim for earning more money, because whatever money you earn, but you cannot use within this lifetime, will not belong to you at all. It's a very philosophical proposition. Right? Similarly, why should we be paying for something that we are not going to use? That is even worse. Why should we be saving up money which we are not going to use? It doesn't belong to us. We have built a base for our generation, even build a base for our future generation, and yet we are supposed to finance the ambition of a 10 million population by this government. And I will show why it is irrational to have 10 million population, right? Now, I'll show this graph. Okay, this is the graph of the bell curve. We call it in talking about population bell curve, right? I think on the left side, on the right side is a female, and the other side is a male. Okay, so it shows. Let me take a look. Okay, on the left side is a male, on the right side is a female, right? So you see, normally, a healthy population demographic should be, the bottom should be slightly bigger. Okay, then the top, those who are above, beyond retirement, beyond 80, 70 years old, 80 years old, should be a tip, a triangular, right? And of course, the main place should be like that. So you have a good numbers of workers from the middle age, from the 20s to 60s, right, before the retirement age, to sustain the economy, for people to work, serve the economy in various roles, whether it's nurse, doctors, right, cleaners, and so on and so forth, right? So there are dots down there, okay, that shows that how it compares to 10 years ago, okay? If you look at the male and the female, it's the same. Huh? Those who are in the teenagers and in the early 20s, the size, in spite of the fact that have been increasing our new citizens. These are our new citizens. These are our citizens portfolio population, right? In, in, in spite of us, in spite of PAP keep giving out these new citizenship to the PRs, right? And the EPs and the SP. EPs are SP no, right? Our teenagers, the below is getting smaller, right? What does it mean? It means that we are in a great deficit in terms of having babies 20, 30 years ago. It started then. And this will get worse in time to come. Now, so does it mean that by increasing new citizens, we can solve this problem? Definitely no. Why? I'll show you why. So far, up to now, this one is the citizens' age group. The new citizens given up. This is the age group. Okay, if you see carefully, right? New citizenships given out in 2023. Okay, this is a percentage. Above 40 years old, there are 26.1% of new citizenship given out are above 40 years old. 26% of them. From 31 years old to 40 years old, the new citizens percentage is actually 26.2. So these two categories, those who are above 31, right, are more than half, 52 of almost 53%, right? 52% at least, right? Then we have 21 years old to 30 years old, only 11.8%. We have a lot of 20 years old and below, 35%. In spite of this, giving a lot of new citizens to the young people who are below 20 years old, the teenagers and all sort, right? Our bell curve is still not improving. Okay, that is how serious it is. But more than half of it is above 31 years old. Remember, those who can actually give birth to more babies are those in the 20s in their lifetime. Okay, so those who are above 31 years old already, even if they married and give birth, it is not going to cover the population decrease, the aging population decrease over time. Right? What does it actually mean? It means that if we keep adding more than half of this population who are above 31 years old, in 30 to 40 or 50 years' time, right, the aging population situation will actually get worse. Okay, it will actually get worse. Is it or not? Because once they become our citizens, they are stuck with us, and they definitely want subsidies, so-called heavy subsidies for healthcare from our government and all that. They were stuck. We will have to take care of them. So does it actually make sense at all? If you say, I only give new citizenship, right, to those who married our local born citizens or the citizens right now, right, plus those youngsters, which have they done 36% of them, right, who are below 20s, or even babies, right, those below 10 years old, you give a lot of them. Then it will solve this bell curve issue. But you keep giving more than half of them to those who are above 31, who are actually off their prime in giving birth or having babies. It is not going to solve our aging population issue. In fact, it is going to aggravate our aging population issue in 30 or 40 years time, right? Especially we are giving a lot of new citizenship to those who are above 41. I do not know why. Right? The game plan is very simple. The game plan is very simple. Why are we worried about aging population? We must identify the factors of a problem, of this problem, aging population. First, we will have a declining workforce. Correct? Correct, right? Because your those who are getting into the workforce will get smaller in size compared to those who are supposed to be retired. So PAP have done the right thing, in spite of the fact that a lot of people have been scolding them, but this is bopian one. They increase the retirement age from 55 to 65. So it will retain the workforce, but slow down the impact of a smaller workforce with this aging population demographic. But still, every year we will have people who actually retire from the workforce when they reach 65. Some of them didn't. I have known people who have worked now 70 plus years old, still are still working as security guards, right? As immigration officers and all that. They're still working. Okay. But many of them have retired. So this is worry of a declining numbers of workforce. But this can be supplemented by having more PRs, EPs, or SP, or migrant workforce. But how many? That is the question. That is the question. We are increasing in the hundreds of thousands every year. Does that actually make sense to you? When every year, those who are retiring from the workforce, it's actually less, I should think it's about less than 50,000, 40,000 maybe, 30 to 40,000. So another argument was, if our economy want to grow, we need more workforce than just replenish those who have retired. But I ask you something very simple. Why should we increase the workforce and grow and accommodate the growth in the economy if it doesn't benefit Singaporeans? Because Singaporeans are not going to be the ones who are going to take up these jobs because this is in excess, right? So that is a fundamental question I want to ask. Right? Unless you say that by increasing workforce and increasing the GDP growth, it benefits Singaporeans. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe PAP can give you more CDC vouchers, right? But if that is the case, why should they keep screaming that they have no money, no enough? They want to increase GST by 1%, 1%, 2%, but at the same time they spend 350 million on a founders memorial hall. Does it actually make sense? Does it building a founders memorial hall benefits everyone, every Singapore's citizens, or just the contractors? It's going to be a white elephant, put it that way. It's basically it's going to be a white elephant, a very expensive white elephant. And that is only construction cost. It doesn't include the cost of the land, which is more expensive than the normal land that they acquire with at the cheap prices from the previous landlords of Singapore. That was not factored in, right? And they will say that, okay, if we have a less workforce, we don't grow our GDP with an aging population, right? The government will have to spend more on on healthcare, right? Because lack of taxation. That is not true. Why? Because we are forced to have MediSave, MediShield. And as far as I know, after so many years of MediShield experiment, the MediShield is actually profitable, so called. Profitable means that the amount of premiums that they collected is well above of the amount of money that was claimed or given out as an insurance coverage for our people, right? In fact, MediShield is more profitable than a private insurance company, you know. I've gone through this before, right? I shall touch on it in when I'm going to talk about healthcare, right? So where does it goes? Takes us to. And in fact, if you want to say, okay, you want to take care of the healthcare, I'll teach them one very good thing. Don't take too much of the workers' levies and all that, right? It's meaningless because it doesn't help us as a citizens. It doesn't benefit us, right? But if we have a universal healthcare insurance, statistically speaking, as a insurance actuarials will tell you, whoever work in Singapore will have to pay Medishield into our Medishield because those who are working are younger than the aging population. Right now they already earn a lot of money already. If you want to supplement our aging population, you do not need to make them our citizens, PRs or EPs or those who are domestic helpers or those who are migrant workers, SP, all pay Medishield. I tell you, our premium the citizens paid for Medishield can reduce drastically if that is implemented. And at least having more migrant workers or more EPs or SP or, or foreign laborers or PRs benefit us as citizens. We do not even need them to increase our new citizens to benefit us. And I've said this before. If you turn a PRs into a new citizens, we have to take care of their health care for life in a Medishield. But if they stay as PRs and they lose their job and they will be forced to leave the country, right, whatever they have paid in the Medishield, we're parking already. We don't need to take care of them. It becomes part of a reserve for our citizens who are going to stay here. Similarly, for all those migrant workers, once they lose their job, they will balik kampung, right? They return to their homeland. And whatever they have paid to the Medishield will help our aging population in giving better coverage or reduction in our Medishield payment. That is a more logical plan in management, right? And we do not need excessive sub workers, foreign workers, whether it's EPs, SP, work pass, or PRs, to supplement the loss of manpower, workforce by our citizens who have retired. and it works for our aging population. By giving too many or giving excessive, actually we are giving excessive uh, new citizenship, we actually burden ourselves. Right? You thought it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. Because whether you are citizens or not, or PRs, you still pay the same tax rate. Right? But if you become the citizens, right, you enjoy a lot of subsidies, BTOs, right, medical subsidies, then we increase our burden on our taxation, our tax revenue, our fiscal position. It doesn't make sense. I do not know why. It doesn't make sense. We just need people to work for us as a nation, right? We will give new citizenship for the foreign spouses of our citizens, right? And maybe in the smaller numbers, we'll give smaller numbers of PRs a new citizenship. We didn't give lay long our citizenship in the 80s or in the 70s. In fact, to get Singapore citizenship was very, very difficult back then in the 80s and the 70s. Not easy to get our citizenship back then. Now it's like lay long, lay long. I don't even understand. And with more money we were collected, right, through the MediShield, we can reduce the burden of our generation of aging population. And we should focus on our own citizens getting married early. That's number one, right? Getting married early so that they can give birth to more babies. There's no second way about this. You thought that by giving new citizenship when they for the PRs who are 30 years old or 40 years old will solve the problem? No. Only on in the short term, the bell curve look slightly better only. But when it go into the midterm or the long term, the problems of the aging population will actually explode because the top will getting fatter and fatter. We will get into trouble. If these new citizens were not citizenship were not given out, these PRs who remains PRs will leave Singapore to retire in their home. Then that makes sense. Right? So I do not know what went on into their minds. Right? Even give new citizenship also didn't put it in balance. You're not giving new citizens to the younger ones. Over half of them are the older ones. If we consider those who are above 25, are actually not worth giving. That's even worse. Okay. Now, I question the loyalty of the new citizenship strategy. People say I'm inaccurate or I was wrong. Okay. Now look at this. Look at this first. Um, I need you to remember some figures. I will need you to remember some figures from this. Okay. Now, from 2020 to 2021, we have a substantial decrease, very rare in our population. And that we also suffered a decrease in our citizen population. Overall population, we have a decrease. Okay. And the citizen population, we also have a decrease about 20 20,000. This might actually looks small, but the actual decrease in citizens as those who are holding our citizenship, actually it was more than that. Why? Because of this. Now, some people argue, well, it's a COVID time, people who are stuck overseas that cannot fly back or choose not to fly back because very leceh, what testing and all that and whatnot. Okay, that's why our citizens population in Singapore, resident citizens, was low. Now, the definition of citizen population as in resident population, there's one definition that the ICA used, which was used internationally. As long as a citizen left the country and didn't return for more than 12 months, they are considered as overseas Singaporeans or overseas citizens. They are not in these numbers. On average, okay, it's quite consistent one. On average, about 200,000 to 210,000 people of Singaporeans lives overseas for 12 months or more. Okay. However, if the proposition is correct, that okay, the drop in the resident citizens population was due to people who are stuck overseas, right? Is correct. Then our number of overseas Singaporeans should actually increase in 2021, correct? But this is not true. You see, consistently, just like I was talking about statistics consistency, from 2014 to 2020 even, right? The overseas Singaporeans numbers stay around 200,000 to 215,000, right? So the variation is about 10 or 15,000. But in 2021, it actually drops to 179,500. You see, if you say that our population, our resident Singapore citizens population in 2021 drops because people are staying overseas, then it must be the case that in 2021, our overseas Singaporeans must increase, not decrease. The data doesn't support that proposition. It's utter rubbish, nonsense. Right? It's nonsense. Right? What does it mean? There's apparently a decrease, at least 200,000, 20, no, not 200,000, at least 20 over thousand of overseas citizens also. Correct? Plus a reduction of 20,000 of residents, citizens. It means we have lost at least, this at least only 40,000 citizens during the COVID time. Right? If we are going to calculate the numbers of new citizenship we give off to net off, my estimation is we have lost 60,000. Right? We have lost 60,000 citizens. That means at least 60,000 of people, of Singaporeans back then, gave up their pink IC. And why? Why, when COVID comes, so many people can give up their pink IC so easily and get another citizenship so easily? Cannot be right. If you are local Singaporeans, right, the normal Singaporeans, can you do that? You want to get the citizenship of other countries, you must at least stay there for how many years? Correct? They have terms of condition one. Like Australia, you must stay there, work there for 5 years at least to be considered. You take a PR first, you must take the PR first, right? You cannot suka turn over. Then You become a citizen, apply for citizenship, right? But this is not the case. Can within 1 year, so many people can give up their Singapore citizenship so easily? Yes, Nikki, you're right. It's about their CPF. Not only Malaysian PRs in Singapore who give up their PRs to get back their CPF money after they work in Singapore. Why we suffer 60,000 people citizenship, right? This estimate, I may be wrong, okay, but it's only logical conclusion, right? It's because we have a crisis of a COVID. Remember, you have to be considered 12 months not staying in Singapore before you're considered as overseas Singaporean. Okay, that means some of them who are overseas as a Singaporean have given up their citizenship. Some of them who are in Singapore have given up their citizenship and balik kampung to their mainland, their home, their own homeland or other places, which they can find new citizenship easy. They must have some lobang one, right? Or some of them might have dual citizenship without us knowing, but decided to give up Singapore citizens, right, and retain the other citizenship and leave Singapore. Why? Why leave Singapore? Basically because they want to take their CPF money lah. Only when you leave Singapore or give up, no, only when you give up your Singapore citizenship, then you can get back the CPF money. That is the only possible reason in my mind. Right? But Singaporeans cannot just leave Singapore because like that, or throw our pink IC like that, unless you are very, very rich, or unless you have a dual citizenship somewhere. Like America, there are some Singaporeans with dual citizenship in America or other places, but very few, right, who can throw their citizenship, the pink IC like that, within 1 year, 60,000. I think that is unprecedented. So my proposition is this: most of these people have already a base overseas, right? They have a house overseas, which they can go and stay anytime they want. They have properties overseas, right? And I believe most of them would have been not locally born citizens who were new citizens in Singapore before. The mobility of these people is greater than locally born Singaporeans, right? The data cannot lie. The data cannot lie. You cannot say that, oh, it's because people cannot come back to Singapore, right? And I can tell you why. Because in 2021, we start to lock down. Actually, we start to lock down in 2020, right? In 2021, we start to impose VDS, vaccination differentiation system, right? I think a lot of people left during that period of time or throw their pink IC. Right? Now, you look at 2023 data. Suddenly, we have an increase of 60,000 resident citizens in Singapore population. Now, this is 60,000. But if we look at 2022 to 2023, the overseas Singaporeans also enjoy an increment about 20,000, right? Yeah, 20,000. This one, 20,000. So overseas, we increase 20,000 Singaporeans. Locally in Singapore, we increase 60,000. It's 80,000, total 80,000 increase in Singapore citizenship, or in total number of citizens. Where do all these people come from? Okay, I've explained before, right? It's from people who are newly born babies, whether it's overseas or otherwise or local, plus, right, new citizenship given out, minus those who have passed away. So I've shown that, right, in local, at least for the local death and birth and death, the net impact is about 4,000, less than 5,000. So out of 80,000 increase in increment during this period, right, only less than 5,000 was due to the net effect of the newborn minus the death. But yet we are told that in that period, 2023, only 23,000 new citizens were given. Then who are the other 50,000 people come from? New citizens come from? Pop from the air. Come out from the air. Numbers can pluck from the air and come out like that. It's magic, man. This is why nobody asked this question in Parliament. Because nobody actually take a closer look at the population data. I do not take whatever things published or said by the official uh, publication or those minister at face value. Uh, Believe them as face value, right? I always go back to the data and examine, hey, does they actually make sense or not, right? This is a way checks and balances should be carried out in a democracy. In POFMA case, SDP have challenged some of the POFMA, okay, over the HDB thing, I think, or over the population thing. No, they didn't win the case. Didn't win the case, but they didn't lose the case totally. At least the judge acknowledged this. Right? Truth is not just what the ministers say. It means that whatever the ministers say cannot be taken as truth or facts in totality. It must be supported by facts and data and statistics. Right? That is actually a very powerful and strong statement by the court. Because in the POFMA Act, I think, it was said that whatever is said by the minister, supposedly, in Parliament, should be taken as a fact and truth. That means, as opposition, we really cannot question that. Does it mean that in opposition, whether you are in Parliament or not, we cannot question what you say? Is it correct or not? Cannot be, right? Right? Therefore, I need your help. I need your support to send in me and my team into Parliament to give a more robust check and balances and question their position or whatever they say and ask them to justify or explain. In this case, there are two cases already, right? Just for the population papers, right? One is, how come there's a discrepancy that I cannot get get it figured out. In the figures that's published and what is even in a published, it doesn't tally. Can you explain to me where does the 50,000 people come from? I need an answer, right? By simple deduction from the data that's given out, right? And I want to know my analysis of the data during the 2021. Is it correct? That's number one. If it's correct, it means something very fundamental. Can we ever depend on new citizens to fight for us, to stand firm and build this country? Only when we have people who are willing to die for the country, then the nation will exist. Else, it's just a number game. You're just playing with numbers. No use one. It's meaningless. You say you exist because you have 10 million, but if half of them are ready to run away, or more than half of them are ready to run away from this country at the first sign of danger, then what existency are you talking about as a nation? Right? I thank you for watching, and you will like what I've said, support us. Please give us a like, share my video, and if you can, donate to our election funds. I tell you, I'm going to do this. No matter how much money that you donated, right? I'm going to give the same value of vouchers, right? E-commerce vouchers. You can choose because you can, after you do a donation, you can PM me, private message me, right? I will do a special code for you for you to actually claim your vouchers, but with terms and conditions to get discount from Akbati or Tudor tea, right? For every purchase, with certain the same amount. If you donate $100, you will get $100 of discount vouchers. Simple as that. Right? But you must PM me, private message me so that I can give you the code, private code, not open to anyone. Right? This is the best I can do for democracy and for our people. Okay? Thank you and good night.